Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. I am your host, Jesse Milestone, and I'm super shiny. I am dealing with hotel lights as I often am, and this one's super illuminating, so if I look like the ghost of Star Wars Past, that's because I am tonight. Also, this is my knee, in case you were wondering. So tonight I thought I'd talk about, I'm feeling the Star Wars, guys. I'm feeling the Star Wars, and I thought we'd talk about some sword fights. Also, side note, if my voice sounds funny, it's because I was screaming at a concert last night, because it's a thing I sometimes do, and by sometimes I mean that was like my first concert in 4 years, but whatever. Not the point. Point is, as some of you may or may not have figured out by watching all of my videos, fencing is a thing I do. I do a lot of it. I referee it. I'm now a part of the Sword Experience podcast, which is a podcast based on Adrian. It's done by Adrian Paul, who does the Sword Experience. He was the guy who was in the Highlander TV series. Anyway, I talk about swords. So if you're talking about swords there, I should talk about swords for all your benefits as well. So tonight we are going to talk about sword fighting in Star Wars. That's like a marriage of two of my favorite things of all time. And I was really thinking about how I wanted to go about it. Now, actually, on one of our upcoming Sword Experience podcasts, you'll be able to hear me and my host argue about rank the Star Wars movies by their sword fights, and argue about that. So that's kind of cool if you want to watch. But I'm going to do it on my own now without somebody disagreeing with me, because I like being right all the time. And I really, really agonized over how I was going to present this to you. If I was going to start with the originals and then work my way through, if I was going to go like 1 through 7, 8, whatever the fuck we're on right now. Or if I was going to do what I've decided on doing, which is we're going to start with the new ones, because those make me the angriest. So we're just going to get that out of my system. We're just going to get that out of the way from the get-go and work our way backwards in time. So we'll hit the prequels next, and then we'll go to finish with the originals, so we can all finish with happy joy. So let's talk about, you know what? Let's just talk about The Last Jedi right now, because it sucked. Like, first of all, it doesn't even qualify as a sword fight. It does not qualify as a sword fight. It's just people, it's just people with swords killing other people with not swords, and doing it in like very mundane ways. Like, it's pretty much blow, blow, kill you, blow, blow, kill you, blow. And if you've watched my review of The Last Jedi, you'll know the thing that pisses me off most about this fight is that apparently both Rey and Kylo Ren, when they engage in sword fighting, just forget how to use the Force. They just totally nope, can't do that. They do all these little tricks and neat little things to like work together and do these flashy things without using Force, you know? Can I Force choke the guy who's choking me with his hands? No, I cannot. And like, we know Rey knows how to use the Force, because in the previous movie, she's like, the Force, we'll get to that in a minute. Actually, we'll get to it right now, because there's really nothing else to talk about in The Last Jedi regarding to sword fighting, because there is no good fucking sword fighting in that movie. So, The Force Awakens, there isn't good sword fighting in this movie either. There's that little bit where Finn fights the stormtrooper, and this is like the most BS part for me right away, because Finn, for some reason, I mean, look, okay, to be fair, maybe his stormtrooper fighting included swords, right? That's the impression I'm getting, because honestly, of the 3 people who wield lightsabers in this movie, he is by far and away the most talented one with it, and he's not even supposed to be. Like, he loses this fight horribly because we're supposed to believe he's terrible at using a sword, but he's actually not. Like, he holds his own initially against Mr. Energy Sword Stormtrooper guy, and then he actually has the best choreography, the best actions, the best, like, etc. of any of the characters in this movie. Like, he just seems to have the best knowledge of how to use a sword. So we're gonna pretend for a minute that Finn was like training to be one of these energy sword stormtroopers when he wasn't busy cleaning toilets because he was a janitor. So we're gonna say, like, okay, that makes sense. He can have this training, right? So that scene, okay, maybe that little fight makes sense where he's going up against like a more skilled guy and they have a little blow, 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 and then he's about to die and get shot and whatever. It's cute. It's fun. It's like, it's not a bad fight. It's not a badly choreographed fight. It's nice and actually like blow for blow, you know, parries, thrusts and stuff. So it's got some sword fighty elements in spite of only one of them using an actual sword. So I'm kind of okay with that one. Now we get to the end, and so you have Finn versus Kylo Ren, and then you have Rey versus Kylo Ren. And like I said, Finn actually shows the most, like, knowledge around a sword, and gets beaten presumably because Kylo Ren is just so powerful. But it's just not, like, he's just being really flashy and not really doing anything. This fight is boring. Let's put it this way. From a sword person's perspective, this is a boring ass fight. Especially once Rey gets the lightsaber, because you just have 2 people who are bad at using lightsabers. Like, they have no training for this. They really don't know what the fuck they're doing. So they're kind of just swinging wildly and like hammering at each other. It looks way more like people wielding axes trying to chop down trees than people have any fucking clue what to do with a goddamn sword. And then you have my favorite part in this fight, where they're like cross blades here, and Kylo's all like, you need someone to train you to use the ways in the Force. And Rey's like, the Force, light bulb. And she closes her eyes and is like, let me download the Force. Let me like plug in Matrix style and just download like, I know Kung Fu. Because that's basically what happens after this. And of course, what happens while she's standing there in her own little head downloading the Force? Kylo Ren is just popping a boner looking at her. That's like the only explanation for why he's standing there staring at her doing absolutely nothing in this like ridiculously long moment. And then she pops up, and is she any good at wielding any better at wielding a lightsaber now? No, she's not. She's just way more aggressive at it. And he's like, holy shit. And I really don't think it's like, oh my god, she's outmatching me now. I really think it's like, I have a boner now. I can't control the fact that I've popped a boner for this chick and I'm also fighting with a sword. Oh my god, what do I do? There's so many like terrible Kylo Ren boner moments between this. I mean, just going back and rewatching these two fight scenes from The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens is like, dude, this whole series is just Adam Driver popping boners, which like, dude, make a porn video. It'll be a lot more popular and be better for your career probably. So fuck the new ones. We're done with the new ones. We're done. We're not talking about them anymore. We're going back to the prequels. So I actually did have a big argument with my co-host, because my co-host is really adamant that The Revenge of the Sith is like the best movie for lightsaber fights. I think is maybe the best. Whatever, he really liked that one for lightsaber fights, and I really disagree. It has the most. It by far and away has the most lightsaber battles of any of the movies in terms of like especially length that people are using swords for. Because you have in the beginning, of course, it starts out with Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, and you have Obi-Wan and General Grievous in this movie, and then of course you have the long drawn out Obi-Wan versus Anakin at the very, very end. So let's start with Obi-Wan, Anakin versus Dooku. This is actually the best fight in this whole movie. It's pretty well choreographed. It's relatively basic, and you have a little bit. What I also like about this fight, which you lose in the second half of this movie, and you completely lose in a lot of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, is a lot of the fun exposition that comes in and around the sword fight that helps heighten and build the story you're telling. Because the sword fight is you're telling a story here, right? So when it's just like, we're fighting now, blah, 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 and you lose story. It doesn't matter how cool the moves are. I don't have the story. I don't really give a shit what's happening anymore. So this one, you actually kind of give a shit. Like, Obi-Wan is just kind of annoyingly bad, though, in this, like, in the past two movies, in episodes 2 and 3, he's just, like, kind of annoyingly bad, because he's like, I'm fighting, then he just gets force thrown against the wall, and Anakin's like, time for me, and, like, no one really wants that, because it's Hayden Christensen, so who cares? But you do have, pretty decent choreographed fight. You get the 2-on-1, kind of idea, and it is actually a really neat little move that Anakin uses to chop Dooku's hands off, a little upcut there, and then that. And I will say, like, that, is that it's like it's a well choreographed bit of fighting with death in the end and whatnot. And then you go on to Obi-Wan versus General Grievous, and it's really like, again, this is where boring sets in this movie. So you've got some guy with 4 arms and 4 lightsabers, and what does he do with them? He spins them around really, really fast. That's like the most impressive thing General Grievous does. He spins things in circles. Like, good job, join a fucking circus. You can see, and you can even rationalize this in the context of the movie, right? You can rationalize this as like, okay, he doesn't, like, oh, I've been trained in the ways of the Force by Count Dooku, but, like, you really, I mean, how much Force training have you really had? Clearly not a lot, because you suck at lightsabers. And clearly the people who wrote this movie were like, we have no idea what to do with 4 lightsabers in 4 arms. 4 arms bearing lightsabers against 1 dude. Like, we're gonna chop up the floor a bunch, and then within the first, 2 moves, he loses one of those arms. We're like, okay, 3, we can handle 3. What are we gonna do with 3? Cut away a whole bunch and then chop up another hand. Okay, 2 lightsabers versus 1. We got this. We've done this before. We're gonna insert a bunch of exposition and have not really any more lightsaber fighting in this scene. Great. And I gotta say, I mean, the last fight, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, is horribly marred by Hayden Christensen's horrific acting in the beginning of that thing. You betrayed me! And, Force choking Padme. If you're not with me, you're my enemy. I will say the one cool thing about this is that the fact that Obi-Wan is the one who draws his lightsaber on Anakin. Obi-Wan's like, alright, fuck it, I give up. He doesn't have that, Luke Skywalker level of faith of, I can bring you back to the light. He's like, shit, we lost you, now I have to kill you. And I'm sure that's, a lot of pent-up rage and aggression from all those years of annoyingly being his teacher. Like, how validating is that? If you're a coach for someone, if you're like a mentor to somebody, and they're such a little shit, they're such an ungrateful little shit, and they never appreciate you, and they finally like do something that warrants you murdering them, like, how validating is that for Obi-Wan to be like, now I get to kill you? So I do like the fact that he draws first, and then you enter the most boring lightsaber battle of all time, and just made like worse by the cheesy melodramatic music of like, oh, we should all care that Obi-Wan has to kill his Padawan, but it's just really, really fast, and it's all like CG too, which is really distracting and stupid, because it's not a good lightsaber fight anymore if you just CG these guys spinning in circles around each other, which is most of what it is. And then it's like climbing up stuff and riding through lava. And so the whole thing is distracted by, ooh, look at the fancy lava in this scene. And the actual quality of sword fighting goes way, 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 way down. The best part of this fight, choreographically wise, that's not a word, is when they're both like on the little piece of shit floating down the lava flow, and they're really close quarters and they're having to fight again. And this is a lot the style of the prequels, because that's the whole thing. The prequels were very much, very more like martial artsy, like Eastern style martial arts, like, you know, kendo, samurai style, like what you're seeing in samurai movies. That's a lot more the style of the prequel movies. A lot of this spinning and these big overhanded actions and these close quarters fighting that you usually don't see with a Western style longer blade. Usually that's much further away. And the originals are a lot more like fencing, which is why I'm very excited to talk about those, because I'm a fencer. But so that part you get cool because you get that close quarters. We were like very, very, you know, right in it. And then it's over because Obi-Wan has the high ground and there's just nothing else to do. But it's sort of impressive how he managed to take off like 3 limbs in one jump. That's pretty about boss. But like, yeah, it's just that the fight is so long. It's one of the longest battles we have in the Star Wars franchise, and it just fucking drags. It just fucking drags. Ooh, I forgot, there's another lightsaber battle in this movie, bringing the total to 4, why it's like the most gratuitous one for lightsaber fights. And that's, of course, Yoda and Darth Sidious, which is also a ridiculously boring lightsaber fight. The novelty of Yoda fighting with a lightsaber is over now, and he doesn't even hop monkey style nearly as well, and there's just a lot of force throwing shit around in this one, and there's like, and when he is force jumping, he's like super CG Yoda to the point where it just looks ridiculous. It looks like someone like took a light up pen and did a open exposure on a camera and just scribbled around like really furiously and was like, ah, it's Yoda sword fighting. So that's sort of a bummer. Okay, so backing up to the one before that, I can't even remember the names of those movies. They're all bad. Attack of the Clones. This is some solid, for especially like episode prequel style sword fighting. This isn't bad. It doesn't get too deep into it. Like the Dooku, Obi-Wan, Dooku, Anakin stuff. Dooku's really just toying with these guys. Like he's so much more powerful than them at this point that it's like, it doesn't matter what I do. So he just kind of fucks with them. And the real joy here is of course Yoda and Count Dooku fighting each other. And you get like Yoda, the way he flips around, and the lightsaber is almost the thing that like he anchors himself around to jump and spin, and the way they're doing the hits in midair and things like that is actually, it's really cool the way they imagine that. Like someone really took time to imagine how Yoda's gonna fight with the lightsaber. We're gonna see this for the first time and this is what it's gonna be. And it still is fucking epic. Like it really does, you know, the excitement that you felt when you were like, oh my god, Yoda's gonna use a lightsaber. There's a purpose to seeing this movie after all. Aside from, you know, being 11, just hitting puberty and seeing Hayden Christensen with his shirt off, but that's me. So, that's a thing. That was worth it alone. Again, it's like you don't get a lot of lightsaberiness in this movie, but that particular moment, I mean, you do get like all the bazillions of Jedis fighting in the thing, in the battle and the stuff, in Geonosis, whatever the fuck the name of that place is. And that's cool because it's like a million light up lightsabers and Jedi waving their things around everywhere, but it's not really sword fighting. It's just waving, you know, understanding the power of the lightsabers, which is a lot of stuff you do get in the prequels, which is cool, especially in episode 1 and episode 2. You really get a feel for how powerful a Jedi is as a warrior and like all the versatile uses of lightsabers, cutting through blast doors, for example, or deflecting like a million blaster bolts all at once. Lots of cool uses. Anyway, side note, I'd just like to point out that there's somebody asleep in this room with me. Like, I've been yelling now for the past 14 minutes, and there's someone just dead the fuck asleep like 5 feet away from me. She is amazing because she can do that, and if I was yelling and trying to sleep at the same time, the version of me that was trying to sleep would be like, fuck you! But she's asleep. So, Phantom Menace, right? This one, by far and away, has the best lightsaber fight of the prequels, and if you're into the prequel style of fighting, you could argue this is the best lightsaber fight in the whole goddamn trilogy. Trilogy of trilogies, whatever we're doing right now, all the movies. Because, I mean, first of all, you get so much new stuff, which you don't ever see again either. We don't get that nice double-bladed lightsaber ever the freak again, and they use it so well. And I mean, Darth Maul, that guy, just like his athleticism and acrobaticness in this fight is what makes all of it worth it. In addition to, they just really, someone again took time to choreograph this shit well and really played with the levels and the back and forth. And this choreographic, like the care in the choreography reminds me more of the originals. It's a much faster pace because of the style and because you have the two people on one, so you got, and it's so meticulous. If you have one person in one place to take it here and the other guy in the other, and they change levels and heights so much, they're jumping over the blade, they're ducking under it, spinning and whatnot. And then we start playing around. Okay, so of course in the Star Wars universe, we can't have any fucking railings except for an Empire. We can't have any goddamn railings because that would make sense, and people then wouldn't fall to their death for no reason. But that is kind of fun, the way you play with that, and you really get a lot of the force jumping now, something you didn't have as much of in the other ones, in the originals. So you get all this force jumping all over the place, and, flips and fanciness. And then you get the random shields, which is, like, so nonsensical, completely nonsensical, to have these just lightsaber-proof shields that flick on and off every couple of minutes. Like, what are they protecting, and why are they there? And if they're protecting shit, why are they just randomly turning off for no fucking reason? I have no idea, but it's a great plot device to force Obi-Wan to then watch his master Qui-Gon die. And the great thing about that, not Qui-Gon dying because we love Liam Neeson and he was awesome, but the great thing about that is now you get Obi-Wan unleashed a little bit. So you see that, and this is the whole thing, right? Jedi are incredibly powerful because not only are they using the Force, but they are using the light side of the Force, which they lose a certain potency on because they're not giving into their feelings and their anger. When they do that, when they do lean into that anger, that power that they've already trained and harnessed so meticulously just explodes, just like boom, just like jizz and Force all over the place. And that's what Obi-Wan does. He's just like, just blows up everywhere, comes out with that anger, the pace picks up. Now it's just and the same kind of pacing that you had when you had two people on the one lightsaber is still here with this and you get some really cool bits even after he cuts his lightsaber in half, where he's doing the jumps and they're having the cuts in midair and the jumps and the spins, and it is really, really cool. And of course we all love him getting chopped in half at the end, and that's just great. So that's the prequels. Now, the originals. The originals are the most, like, actual fencing, like I said, which makes me love them just the more. In terms of footwork, A New Hope, not so much in the way of footwork. I mean, you're dealing with Alec Guinness, who's, like, fucking old, and whoever's in Darth Vader's suit probably can't move around that well anyway. But just the blade work in this, just the feeling of it, the parries and the riposts and the accuracy of the hits, and of course the beautiful sounds. I mean, this is the first time that that anyone ever saw a lightsaber battle. This is the first time a lightsaber battle was brought into existence, and the purity of that, I love the simplicity of the fight for that reason, because it doesn't have to be this flashy. It's not like we've been introduced to Star Wars, we get it, we know what it is, we want more, make them jump higher, make them scream louder, make them blow up more shit. You just have a beautifully simple, here are these two weapons you've never seen before. Here's some really elegant stuff. Here's just what they can do. And you get a sense of their power, just a bit. So that, for me, there's something so beautifully, blissfully pure about that. I don't need all the jumping. I don't need all the spinning. I like the really nice, beautiful exchange of parry, riposte, where two people sparring. Where two people just going back, forth, the way you would. I defend a blow, I give you a blow. I defend a blow, I give you a blow. That's how shit's supposed to work. And it's nice. That makes me feel good. And then we get to Empire. We get, of course, the first time Luke faces Darth Vader, which is super exciting. And oh my god, the footwork in this. There's like the stuff in the beginning where he's like feeling it out. He like takes an advance and Darth Vader moves back. He takes an advance and Darth Vader moves back. And at one point he's like in a lunge position. He's actually doing this really good footwork and playing with the distance, because that's his whole fight, is him feeling out this opponent who he knows is super strong. And that's the funniest part of the fight for me, is when he's like, you'll see I'm full of surprises, like falling down the stairs, because that's what he does almost immediately after that. He just falls down the stairs. So, and this is the first fight where we get to see the Force getting involved in it. I mean, you don't have it so much happening at the same time at first, like Luke, but Luke does jump to escape the, carbon freezing and all that good stuff. And of course you have the beautiful dramatic moments of like the voice, hearing Darth Vader's voice just before that looks really cool when I do that. Darth Vader's voice, Darth Vader's voice, Darth Vader's voice. Anyway, so you get all, it's so good. And then, okay, so there's the bit right before Luke flies out the window. underrated. We talk about all the people who are absurdly force powerful, and like, of course, the one time Kylo Ren and Rey actually make sense is when they're lightsaber fighting. They suck at it. You're like, that makes sense. They don't have any training. They're just super powerful at every fucking thing else. But you know what Darth Vader can do that he does in the scene that nobody else can do? Apparently, like nobody, not even Yoda, no one in the entire fucking galaxy can do. Darth Vader just moves shit without using his hands. Everyone else is like, oh, I gotta use my strength. Darth Vader's like, I'm still fighting you, and by the way, that thing's flying off the wall and hitting you in the fucking face right now. It's the greatest part of the fight, where he's just like, I'm gonna step back, stand here with my lightsaber, and just throw more shit at you because I can. And Luke's there like, oh my god, it's hitting me. It's like almost silly, but it's great. So yeah, and what I love about this fight too, from the beginning, from the get-go, right? Luke is the one driving the tempo and the rhythm of this and feeling out Darth Vader. Darth Vader doesn't want to kill him. Darth Vader, remember, he wants him to join him at this point. So Vader's like, he's a little bit, he's a little restrained, and we really get to see just his natural. And I always love when you have that, when you have the weaker fighter driving the tempo, so you have the stronger fighters being like, I got this, bitch, and you don't. So that's cool for me. And then a little bit later, right, when you get onto the balcony, you have a moment too where Luke, and this is so much fun, where Luke actually does like wound Darth Vader a little bit, and he's like, what the fuck? And now he's pissed, and now that anger comes out, and it's just like, bam, 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 feel my wrath. That's like a little, like the one good thing about the great part about Rogue One, where he's waving his lightsaber around at the end, you're like, this is the power of the dark side, and he just like unleashes a bit on Luke, and the move where he takes his hand off is like so casual. It's just like, flick, nope, you don't have a hand anymore, suck it, you're just like me now, we're twinsies, oh my god. But just like that, just little, just casual, like, boom, right, there goes your lightsaber, and there goes your hand. How you like them apples. So I love that. I just want to point out something that makes me really upset, though, and that scene, that second half of that lightsaber scene on YouTube, including the, like, fucking iconic I am your father shit, has, like, 500,000 views, whereas the Praetorian scene from The Last Jedi already has over 1 million, and that makes me want to vomit everywhere. Especially on people who like The Last Jedi. Just vomit all over anyone who liked The Last Jedi. Anyway, I digress. So we're on Return of the Jedi now, because we've had that other stuff. So Return of the Jedi, it's not a lightsaber fight per se, but I do love Luke using his lightsaber in the rescue at Jabba's palace. And like that great moment of R2 firing it out and him like getting it, and again getting a little sense of like the power of a lightsaber. Ooh, now I have this thing that like melts through giant guns and I can just cut everything, and it's awesome. So that's a little bit neat as well. But let's focus on the fight at the end. Now this in terms of actual, the blade work is probably the least exciting or interesting one, because a lot of this fight is Luke not wanting to kill his dad, and the rest of it is like Luke wanting to save his sister and wildly swinging his blade around. But again, you have a lot of really nice footwork. And now this fight is definitely more about the exposition and the dramatic climax that's happening here over the actual fight itself. But again, you still have, again, the footwork and the use of the timing and the distance. It's very fencing-esque. It like relates to fencing, and it makes me feel good because I see the influence. I see where they got that. And that's what lightsaber fights have always been about for me, is like a good sword fight. And I get why they, mocked it up in the prequels, and that sort of just lent itself to the whole thing. It's just a good sword fight, though. So that's why the new movies suck even harder, is because they can't even deliver on that shit. They're like, why would we bother choreographing when you can just hack and smash wildly? Like the end of the Return of the Jedi fight, where Luke's like, don't take my sister, chop off my dad's hand. That's like what the entire Rey and Kylo Ren fight looked like. It was like, and there was nothing quality about that whatsoever. So those are my feelings. That's what I think about the lightsaber fights, and you might think other things, and that's fine too, but these are what I think. You can tell me what you think about them. And if you disagree with me, you might be wrong, but you also might have valid points, so I'll probably listen to them if you say them. Also, guys, I'm on Patreon. That's a wonderful way to support my yelling habit and join a community where you get to see stuff that I don't show to other people, because I don't. And that's in the link below, so you guys should do that, become part of my awesome little community, and be happy forever and ever and ever. Yay! And check out the Sword Experience podcast.